Hey MJ traders, just a quick check-in on some tickers and a couple notes in the sector as we look towards the short-term event of the US MSO, and it's not fully US MSOs, but a decent portion. ETF on the NYSE, MSOS is the ticker. Follow Haman Shares for some info on that. He's been posting about the ETF, and that's what we're looking for tomorrow. We're going to get posted tonight the breakdown of what their holdings are going to be. It's going to be actively managed, so they're going to be consistently changing. I think I read somewhere that they're going to update every day what those position sizings are. How are they able to do this? Through swap contracts. So they're not directly buying these shares for the NYSE listed ETF, but they've worked a little bit of a loophole to get some exposure to it. So keep an eye out on this MSO. Keep an eye out, or I should say on this ETF, MSOS. Keep an eye out for what the holdings are. And most importantly, keep an eye out for what the dollar volume is on this instrument. If the dollar volume is low, it doesn't mean anything. If the dollar volume is high and there is interest and they get mentioned on CNBC and go on and talk about it, if they see Dave Portnoy and the retail trader bros jump on board, then things get interesting. But without volume on this new ETF, it means nothing. So volume has to happen for it to have a direct impact on these MSOs going up. Another thing to note, we've been seeing consolidation in our lead MSOs over the last 2 weeks. And part of that is due to profit taking post earnings after a significant run up. And part of that, in my opinion, is due to the shifting probabilities as Trump gains ground in polls and on betting websites for the presidency. Biden was leading, and it's now pretty much a 50-50 at this point. So over the last 2 to 3 weeks, things have significantly shifted. Keeping it very simple. If Biden wins, it is more bullish for MJ in the short term than if Trump wins. If Biden wins, we have federal medical, which means descheduling from Schedule 1, which means access to banking, which means ability to uplist on major exchanges. If we see Trump win, we may have just the same environment that we've had for the next 4 years. And there's no indication of that changing. So that's where we stand. It's also going to be very interesting. The more known the outcome of the presidency is, the more it's going to get priced in. If it stays at 50-50 shot into the election, we do not look for a sell the news event, because Biden winning would mean people say, oh, he won, I'm buying now. If it's likely that Biden's going to win, we're going to run up into the election. If it's likely that Trump is going to win, we are not going to run up into the election, because we are not going to be having that bullish catalyst approaching. So there will be individual bullish catalysts, like the possibility for Arizona recreational legalization and a couple other states and some medical, and that's great, but it's not the big one as far as what the bulls are looking for a short-term catalyst. We've also got edibles for sale now in Florida. 4 companies are able to make them. 2 are private. The other 2 are Curaleaf and Trulieve. So that's bullish for those 2 names. But again, really, best case scenario, what we want to see is, ideally, if you want to run up into the earnings, let's try that again. It won't be a sell the news event unless it is likely that Biden wins and then he wins. So if it is not likely that Biden's going to win, we are not looking for a sell the news event, because it cannot be accurately priced in with him winning. So continue to watch those polls and those betting websites to see how the probabilities shift from here. We have 2 months to go, which is about 43 trading days, something along those lines. IIPR, lead USMJ bull. This move is extremely strong, and most notably, it is correlating with SPY and QQQ and our strongest markets right now. That's very notable. This has been an extremely strong move. The weekly time frame has not consolidated since the $90 range. We know we're due for weekly consolidation, just like we're due for weekly consolidation in the S&P 500 and in the tech sector. There's just no sign of it right now. So we're marching slowly forward day by day. Short-term support is now 122.25, and after 126.64, we're looking at a gap to fill at 132.31. Actually, 130.50 is the next resistance level from here. But the bottom line is there is a lack of resistance until the all-time high. We're about 10% away. I would expect weekly consolidation before all-time highs. This is a very strong name benefiting from market strength. And you can just see this kind of move, in my opinion, just shows some bots and algos that are correlated to the broader market. And because IIPR is traded on the NYSE, it is benefiting from those correlations and automated trading. Now we go to our three major US MSOs. GTBIF, we have our high, low of the pullback, and it's looking like our lower high has been set. It's getting a little bit choppy in here, but watching to trade within this tightening range for a bit longer. And the only thing, in my opinion, that would lead to a bull break short term from here would be if this ETF sees a lot of dollar volume, gets some hype and media attention, and leads to some significant dollar volume coming into the space. In the absence of that, I expect to trade within this range for another week, and then we could easily drop to a lower low and see further weekly consolidation. Right now, this is a weekly bull flag setup. So I can say if 1330, the low of current consolidation, holds, it's a weekly bull flag. If that level breaks, it's not a weekly bull flag. It's a very simple statement. So with that in mind, I am looking to establish a position now. I entered one small position today. I will enter one more in the low 14s, and then I would probably enter one more in the upper 13s. And I would exit if 1330 breaks. I have a position in TCNNF that I am not going to exit if the low of consolidation breaks, but this is me being a bit more aggressive and establishing a larger USMJ position, but having a stop on it to be protective, because again, if Trump just keeps this trajectory up in terms of increasing probabilities, then that will diminish the run-up into the election that we could see if Biden can regain some bit of a lead. So GTBIF, 1330 most important support, and 1629 most important resistance. TCNNF, I was already a bit more aggressive. I like this name more because it's blue sky breakout. I've also been tracking it more. I'm more comfortable trading it. So I was a bit more aggressive, and I scaled in on this weakness and got myself a 2065 average. And we saw this bounce, and that was great, but we knew we were just looking for a daily lower high compared to 2650. That has now been set. And I may look again to be aggressive here and look for another entry in the $21 range if we keep pulling back. And again, I'm keeping my 2065 position, and even if we break 1954, that's just fine for me. But any new positions that I'm adding today or from here on out will be based on the low of consolidation. So it's me being aggressive, but having nearby stop levels on those positions. So if I enter another position at 21, I will exit it if 1954 breaks, and then be more patient, because again, if we break the lows of these consolidation periods, the odds of a run-up into the election will diminish a good bit, in my opinion. Best case scenario is holding the low of current consolidation, US MSO ETF getting some hype and exposure and dollar volume, and Biden gaining a little bit in the polls again to tilt the odds a bit back in his favor. CURLF, high of 970, low of 782. Similar pattern, same thing. Trying to set that weekly higher low very quickly. If that level breaks, we're still looking for a weekly higher low. It's just no longer a bull flag at that point. Fourth honorable mention, CRLBF has already broken the low of consolidation. That is noteworthy. It's on increasing bear volume too. The weekly time frame is less likely to be a bull flag. I'd say pretty much right here. If we bounce from right here, it's still a possible weekly bull flag, but any further pullback, and we then start to shift perspective where instead of a continuation move is the most likely scenario, the pullback then gets significant enough that we are looking for a higher low, but we will just be looking for it to result in a lower high from there. So it is showing us why it's not one of the top three major players. It is showing more weakness. It's already dropped to a lower low, and again, that does increase the odds that our top three MSOs are going to break their low of consolidation a bit more for me. It doesn't mean we're going to, but again, it's just another little tally mark in favor of the bears seeing that happen. HRVSF, honorable mention, definitely not in the same league as these other names, but The weekly time frame has a nice tight pattern. High, low, lower high was 157. Higher low is now 115. So same thing, if I want to be a bit of an aggressive bull, I'm entering but using 115 as my stop, because if that level breaks, we're not going to see a weekly trend change. If that level holds and we break 157, that's a weekly trend change to shift this momentum, which the other MSOs have shifted long ago, and HRVSF was left in the dust, but trying to play catch up. So it's a laggard to be watching, but we have to hold 115 and break 157, or I should say 157 for that to matter. I think that's all I got. It's going to get interesting. Next few weeks will be very telling. And best case scenario, if we do break support, would be a bear break with zero follow through straight into a bounce. Time will tell. Have your game plan established. What are you going to do if this weekly support breaks? What are you going to do if we break to higher highs? What are you going to do if it becomes very likely that Trump's about to be president? What are you going to do if it becomes very likely that Biden's about to be president? These are all scenarios that we need to have laid out so we are not caught by surprise and freeze up. Hope you're well. We'll check back in as things continue to develop. And let's hope for some MSO volume. Planted this plum tree about a year ago, maybe 10 months. And the new growth that's exploding off of it, just that bright green color, you can tell it's really healthy. And its roots have taken hold. And this is going to be a good tree over the years. Behind it over here, one of my friends gave me a plant, some sochan, which is an edible. I believe there's medicinal properties as well. But just another plant that you can eat in the yard. I forget what kind of dogwood this is, but it's an edible variety, and I showed last year when it was fruiting. That was my first time ever eating it. Kind of like a little peach with a weird texture. Not ready just yet. So these are the Chinese snake beans that get 5 feet long, and they're already starting to explode. This is maybe 3 feet long. Very curious to see how these turn out.